when they're completed, they will put the file together, they will review the file, the statements, and so on, prepare it in a way in which it can go for legal advice, because it must go to the Director of Public Prosecutions for legal advice, and once legal advice is received on it, then a direction will be given as to whether to charge or not to charge, or whether to do further investigations, because those are things that the Director of Public Prosecution alone has powers by law.
What do you say right now about the RSS? I know that is a concern in terms of reference and the scope of the investigation. At this moment it's a criminal approach, but what are your thoughts to make sure people understand wherever the investigation is coming from, what they should be looking forward
I have not read the terms of reference with the RSS, but what I can see, my observations on the ground, is that the RSS is basically supervising. All right, what they're overseeing the police, because the police, even when they retrieved the warhead, they didn't take the warhead. They allowed the police investigator, dressed in his gloves and everything, to put it in an evidence bag, seal it, everything in their presence, on video. So I don't find that they are, you know, from past, they might have had a few negative.
I know yourself dealing with cases before.
Right, they might have had some negative feedback from persons, and I think mainly so because a lot of the recommendations that they had made were never implemented. I would hope, but this particular case, I like to highlight the case that we're dealing with. These two matters that we're dealing with, I am telling you, don't matter if it's the police investigating or RSS coming with sworn powers, they cannot get out of this investigation. It is clear that what happened here was wrong. No justifiable shooting of Mr. Peters, no justifiable shooting of Mr. Paul. None. So it is very little. What they have to do is to make sure they go through the records, go through all the firearms, and of course they have persons on the close arrest, and I think even the police might have supported who fired it. You know, so there's very little. This investigation is a straight hit. It's a straight hit. Wrong, they were wrong.
So let me just say this is that next lawyer that we asked, and we're so thankful community-wise for him to come into the community, showing support for the community, but more importantly, the families and the witnesses who would have been part of this in terms of experiencing and seeing what transpired. And I know you met with them. What is it that you think that they now feel now that you've met with them, like give them some advice and as they look forward? Because I know we came early, the mom was very adamant about how she sees justice and true justice in this service.
I think there is a level of relaxation, and I say that because I think I took the time to explain to them the process. All right, we cannot say we want justice, but the vehicle to get you to that justice, you affect. This process is that the police must investigate, and we got to cooperate with the police, and we got to give our statement. If is it that you want to be sure that what you have given to the police is what will be used, all right, that to my mind will also, nothing is wrong with you even flashing your statement to make sure. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm just saying whatever means it will take them to be comfortable that what is presented to the police is what will appear in the file, unchanged, and what will appear before the court. There are things that you, but I don't foresee that is what will happen. I think clearly all the persons who said they saw things, they were present when certain things happened, they must come forward and give their statements. And they must come forward and give their statements uninterrupted and without prompting. All right? Because what you want is the truth to come out. I've always found that when people give their story and they're truthful, all right, when they go into that box in the court, no matter what questions are thrown to them, they will stick to what they, because it is coming from a place that they of a first-hand information. I saw this happen. All right. So you want those persons to come forward. You want them to present their statements free, and they don't have to worry. They don't have to worry at all. All right. Even without a lawyer being present, they don't have to worry. They can give their statement, because at the end of the day, this is a part of the journey that will get them to justice.
So we're talking first a criminal side. This is very important.
Yes.
Now, you said that this is a clear-cut case. Any suggestions or ideas how the family move forward from this once it's established criminally and culpability is with the police and the state? How do they proceed?
Well, remember, the only authority to apportion culpability will be the court. This matter has to go to court. And the court must look at the evidence and say, well, okay, the evidence leads to, if it's a trial before a jury, then the jurors come in to say, well, the evidence is clear, I find the man guilty. I don't find him guilty. You know, it's with them. What is key now is that there is a maintaining of the integrity of the evidence and the investigation, so that when it goes to the court can accept it without any form of violence. All right, and that is key. There are two processes: the criminal process, in which the police can investigate, and then the families also have the recourse to go to a civil court, because deprivation of one's life is clearly an issue in which they can bring it. All right, and the families, after the completed burials and all of that, there's a process in which they can do it. But I believe justice is not one. It was clearly wrong. Right?
So thanks, Doc.
Yes. No problem. Right, thank you.
Very short, Doc. Welcome. You're very grateful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Call me anytime, and I'll be here. All right. Thank you so much. All right.
So this is the lawyer, Dexter Todd, who have accepted the invite from the families and the community to not only give legal advice, which he did, but to also discuss with some of the witnesses and to also discuss with the family members, to look at some of the evidence, look at the crime scene, and to give some advice where advice is needed, give some assurances where assurances are needed. And we are now going to have an engagement with the RSS. I know that the families have already left to go to Mackenzie, and we're now going over there to meet with them. All right, so thanks, and we'll keep the cameras on until we get there. Give you some more comments. Thank you very much, my brother. All right, just give the guy the sound.
Listen.
All right, so what we had there was Counsel Dexter Todd. Yeah, let me go question. So we're now getting over to the Mackenzie end. This morning, again, the families yesterday, while we were meeting with the RSS members, indicated that they would like to have some counsel guidance, which they got today from Mr. Todd. And they are looking at all those options. I see somebody saying that they should sue. And I think those are good advice that were given by Mr. Todd in terms of those options that are available. So I'm sure they'll be considering all of that, Ms. Casey. And just to have you know that they've asked us to help wherever they can get help in terms of support and guidance. And we want to maintain our support and guidance in terms of the help for those families. So that was Dr. Dexter Todd, who is one of the senior counsel that we've asked to come up. And we're now heading over to the Watuka Club to meet the RSS and the families. I think what Dr. Todd mentioned was very clear just now, very clear. said that, you know, it's a clear-cut case. It's not building expectations. Not building expectations. I remember as soon as we came to this location just now, and Miss Vanessa Fodgene, who's the mother of Kian, you know, she was very, very in tears, crying, because she's really, you know, upset with what justice looks like. What justice looks like. You know, does it look this slow? Does it look like forever? Does it even look possible? Alright? I think now that she's had the opportunity to get some legal guidance and perspective, it doesn't mean she's any much comfortable. But I think she's better aware of just what justice looks like. You know, sometimes it looks a bit slow. Is that left ready?
Yeah, they're moving on.
Just adjust it. So yes, as I said, you know, the justice is a, you know, Peter Tosh said it better, you know. Peter Tosh said everybody crying out for peace. We hope some people cry for justice. I was just having this conversation. I saw a clip of a video with one of the ministers. I saw a video with one of the ministers a couple of minutes ago speaking about the issue of the young man, Mr. Peters, losing his life. And it was quite unfortunate to see that the issue of life and limb is so... yeah, I see somebody asking how long does it take for justice. The issue of life and limbs were not the most important thing for the minister. What was most important would be infrastructure. We've always committed as a responsible local government that people must be able to protect these infrastructure, but life and limb are most important to protect. And I believe that the loss of life of Mr. Peters was in itself unjustifiable. I am encouraged, however, that the lawyer, Dexter Todd, was able to give some assurances to the family in terms of not only what in the layman context of seeing that a crime occurred, but legally how to interpret the occurrence of that crime and what actually is it that they should be looking forward to in the investigation. Those were very, very important observations that were made by Counsel Todd, and I want to say thanks to Counsel Todd, lawyer, for taking the invite to come and to give that sort of support and guidance. Now let me also say thanks to MP Amanzo Walton Desir, who have been doing that also. Amanzo would have been doing tremendous work on this particular matter in terms of ensuring support and guidance is there with the family. And also Attorney at Law Nigel Hughes, who was one of the first on the ground to lend support to the families, to take statements, and to ensure that we have a better understanding. But I want to say thanks to Mr. Todd, Dr. Todd, for not only accepting the invite, because he was out of the jurisdiction, but made himself available to come to Linden, to speak with the family, to speak with witnesses, and to also inspect the crime scene, to have an understanding of where persons' concerns are as they look to see the investigating capacity and this matter be investigated by the RSS. And those are very, very important things in terms of the community's confidence in this matter and the community's confidence in the police in properly addressing this matter. So I know that, as we said yesterday, that the families will be over at the Watuka guest house for 1 o'clock. So I know that they're actually there at the moment. And we're going to go there just for a couple of minutes and have them ensure that they give their statements, and at the same time to keep you updated on what is happening. You know, both Councillor Parks and myself would have continuously stayed engaged with the families. And I want to also thank Councillor Parks for not only being part of that, but also just the level of involvement of ensuring that these families are properly taken care of. Let me just say that we are very concerned, we are very careful to appreciate just the nature of what we are dealing with. So we are now getting to the Watuka Club. I'll end the live once we get to the Watuka Club. Alright, but I'm just giving you a quick update that this morning we had Councillor Dexter Todd, Dr. Todd, came to Linden at the request again of the families of those two young men that were gunned down by the members of the Guyana Police Force. And his presence in Linden sought to bring some legal clarity to the nature of what we were told was the investigation being conducted by the RSS. Some of that clarity, even though it was for the families, we want to thank Dr. Todd for extending that beyond the families and having some engagements with the witnesses who were actually present. We had 3 persons who were there at the scene when Mr. Peters was shot. They came forward. In fact, a few of them came forward with warhead in the hand. I'm just telling you. The actual rung, the guys them preserved the warhead. So you know exactly, as someone who understands how firearm work, once the rung comes out, the casing remains, and the casing could be matched identically to the bullet based on the firing pin, the firing mechanism. So those things are very important in terms of, I think Dr. Todd did outline too that the retrieving of the bullets from both young men were done by the Guyana Police Force in the presence of the RSS. And at the same time, what was said to the witnesses that now found their courage because they needed that sort of legal support and legal involvement, so they came forward this morning, was that they were concerned that those statements being taken, how they were going to be treated. So those things were very, very important to ensure that we have Dr. Todd on site for the families and for those witnesses, and to just bring a better perspective on exactly what it is that we are looking at. And again, I want to say, based on his legal observation, and you heard him say it earlier, that this is a very clear, both cases are very clear cut in terms of who did the shooting and in terms of if it was done in line with any SOPs. Now, culpability, as he rightly said, is with the courts. So then we are here to now see this investigation unfold. And as the evidence is retrieved from witness and on the ground, How will that ensure it informs the DPP first for any action, and second, for what that action going forward in the courts may look like? I think the other thing he did say also, I think also what he did say too was that it's important for us to know that these matters can lead to a civil case. So you had a more criminal approach to what is taking place right now in the investigation, and based on what comes out of that, based on the last point I made about culpability, and this being a clear case of police excesses and police inaction, that we can see a next part of this case, which the family may so choose to do, which is more a civil case, could be looked at. So I just wanted to bring you again up to date on, at the request of the families, we have been invited to ask for some legal support. We've been asked to look at some legal support for them, which we have been doing, and we have received from Dr. Todd in terms of legal support that will give guidance to the family. So they've received those.
Inside.
Somebody said they have one question. Incompetent. You know, let me just say this about Dr. Todd. Dr. Todd was the lawyer that dealt with the Henry the Henry boys. So just know that Dr. Todd is the lawyer that represented the Henry boys family, and Dr. Todd also represented the issue of Quindon Bacchus. So I don't think Dr. Todd is unfamiliar, Dr. Todd is unfamiliar with the work of the RSS and also the nature of these type of investigation. He did say that these two investigations are more clear-cut in terms of knowing what happened. But he also said, with reference to the work of the RSS, it is based on those recommendations and likely charges that they are recommending that have not been looked at, implemented. And I think this is really where the fundamental issue of police and policing and accountability by the state comes in. That we can see all of these recommendations. We're heading over to the Wismar-Mackenzie Bridge right now. We're heading over the bridge right now. And we can see in 2012, when a commission of inquiry was done on the incident on this bridge that resulted in the loss of life of Rodwell, Alan Lewis, Shemrai Boy, and Ron Somerset. When those men were killed, and according to the commission of inquiry, they were killed by the police, who were the only ones doing the shooting on the 18th of July. They were killed. It was clearly outlined in that report several dozen recommendations that would improve the Guyana police force and their methods of policing. And I think that is what Dr. Todd was saying with the RSS, that this is not about us not having confidence, because I remain cautious, very, very cautious about the option being given for an independent investigation, but the direction chosen was the RSS. I'm cautious about that. But what he said to us was that it was not only the way they went about investigating, there is where we have recognized no issue with that. It is the recommendations, when they bring back those recommendations. How have they been applied, and how have government been able to ensure that we don't have a repeat of these matters where young black men at the rules of engagement with the Guyana police force many times end up dead. I think that is very, very important.
Well, thanks again. We'll now head to the Watuka Club, and we do look forward for your continued engagement in our matter covered by the state police. See some questions being asked. Like I said before, we remain very watchful of the process. I know the family is. I don't want to repeat some of what they were actually asking to be so in terms of the justice. They really deserve and demand the justice. But let me also take on this discussion of way forward and next steps. At the moment, they're planning to have the wake. They do have wake every night at the Kansas City Four Corner area. Every night there is a wake session there. Also, they do have plans for the funeral service or services for both gentlemen. They're being planned at the moment as the autopsy concluded 2 days ago. So those are things we're actually sitting with the families to go through to see how they want to coordinate things like that, and we'll get back to the public with that. I know at the moment, for those who can, I've received a list with the need for support for the wake. They've given me a list with some food supplies that they're asking for persons who may have an interest to help, if they can, make available some of these resources, because you know the wake is not for the families. The wake is a community wake. I can tell you, I was just at the site that I was just there, and there's lunch being prepared right now for the wake. There is continuous providence of meals for the wake. So you know, it's just to ensure that the family gets that support of the community and their participation in these type of activities to show solidarity, especially at the issue of the wake. I know also we are looking to see a vigil. We'll put that information public in terms of how we will proceed with that, and we look for the community again support and their embrace of the family at this time. So let me just give a little update on these guys too. I met with the aunt of Ronaldo, Miss Mary Benjamin, and you know, the father of Ronaldo, very humble people. I also met with Ronaldo's with the mother of his child, and also I saw his 1-year-old, 3-month baby. And you know, it's most unfortunate that a young man 21 years old will not be there to take care of his family. You know, it's most unfortunate. Yeah, this place is real hot. And the reason why the windows are down I think we can fully appreciate why people have been given a shoot to kill harder. And you see this type of, you know, importance of why people's lives are not priority over resources. Yeah, so again, Mr. Peters was 21 years old, 1 month, 3-year-old baby girl. you know, never had a criminal record. For the things that are being suggested about Mr. Peters, I believe those are things that an investigation is going to unfold. And notwithstanding those things that are said, there is no right to shoot to kill an unarmed individual. No right to shoot to kill. And more so when we would have witnessed the video evidence that completely contradicted the police report, should trouble any one of us in terms of the police there to serve and to protect. And when they would have committed such act, they are quick to put a different narrative to any such behavior. I think that's very, very troubling and dangerous. Very troubling and dangerous. Because I know the whole world, we know what we saw, and what we all saw was a crime. Was a crime. And you can understand how infuriated the family, how infuriating the behavior of the action of the police was. That the family, you know, couldn't believe that this young man was being treated like such an animal, even after he was shot and placed in the police vehicle alive. Couldn't believe it. You know, every time you speak to the family, that is the most heart-wrenching thing that they can think about. That while alive, he was being dragged to the vehicle like a dog, according to what his aunt said to us. And then we have 22-year-old Kian Fojini, you know, returning from work only to meet his demise. The police actually killed someone less than 24 hours, and crowd control mechanism was to shoot to kill a protest action. Shoot to kill. Can you understand why? Why it is that the police felt it so important in the experience of the past 18th of July and others that they have to shoot to kill. Shoot to kill. So those two young men, stood no chance in the prime of their lives. Prime of their lives were gunned down instead of being protected by the state.
Hey, well shot, man. Good, General.
What do you got? Set up back up for no
So let me just, I'm trying to get over the bridge. I don't know why we're taking so long. And again, you know, this goes to show the importance of proper planning. So, as I said before, two young men in the prime of their lives gone down and not given an opportunity to even defend themselves should be of concern to any one of us. As I mentioned to some young men while we were at the coroner at Kansas City in the Four Corner, that this could have been any one of us, any one of our children, any one of our brothers, any one of our sons, that without proper cause or reason, and in fact with no cause or reason, could be shot and have the accountability of their actions questioned in terms of their criminal conduct, if they ever had such a conduct or past. I know before the day is out, I know Linden is in a very trying time. Linden is with some trying times at the moment, very trying times. We just had we can speak so extensive on a crime scene, on a criminal situation, on a police excesses in terms of police excesses. Let's not forget, Linden got one of the most major catastrophes that are occurring with it right now, which would be the fire. We have the fire at Amelia's Ward at the sawmill. And I know that we had asked quite some time.
Tell you, we think it's the bridge. Tell more really call the people at the bridge and let them ease the traffic going on over there.
Let them know the traffic at the bridge is very heavy. The people are on the way. We've been sitting in traffic for quite some time.
Yeah, tell you, just let it just all be coming here with the traffic is the people with the
traffic.
Yeah. Mr. Yeah, the main guy.
I'll call them. Yeah, free that graduate. So yeah, we have the issue of the forest fire, the sawmill fire, sorry. And I know we had asked, and I think we'll get into a very detailed conversation about this. Hi, we got the issue with the traffic at the bridge. The traffic now open up, so we now coming across the bridge. It took us.
People have already turned down. Numbers, they're like the duty also. We expect someone to come in when I come in 12:30. I expect we'll already be here. But it's going to be waiting on the people and all the things. All they have to do is come in and wait. As soon as the people come, they think about it.
So, I know we try to get over the bridge a couple of minutes ago, but let me just say again, the issue with the fire, the council doesn't have the means and the ability to battle a house fire, much less any such a sawmill fire. There is a regional disaster preparedness committee, as I was mentioning, that is directly plugged into the office of the Prime Minister. All right. This committee was activated at the earliest when this matter became very evident of not being able to control. Earliest. And one of the things we did say to the general public and those in high authority was that this needed, I'm coming just I'm coming. That this needed to be looked at in a manner where is wider support and appeal for support was made. I think we're looking at those type of things to preparedness. I think also outside of disaster preparedness, this excuse. So we're going to, I really want, so today I'm doing a couple of things. Let me just say this. I'm hoping to not spend very long. So I'll leave this situation. We've been with this. We've given this in terms of where the guidance of this matter is going. But I also want to go to Amelia's ward and look at the fire. We were there. I have been with this matter from the inception, the said night of this fire. And every day we've covered this fire in terms of our presence, I think in a wider coordination with government and government agencies such as the Guyana Fire Service. These matters need to be properly approached. But more than approaching them, as we look for next steps, as a regulatory body, the MNTC, the Mayor and Town Council, we have to ensure that we look at how we approach regulations of sawmills, industrial waste, of environmental issues. Those sort of things become even more important now as we go forward. So we're going to bring out some of those things shortly. All right? Kian, he was alive. And not just he was alive, he was alive and well. They cannot proceed beyond that with any investigation certainty. If you don't use the mother, you said, listen, my son was alive, so nobody can, that's in a statement. All right, they need that. So even if they hear it from 1 million people, they need that from you. All right, and they'll come and get it. All right, so we'll make sure we arrange that. Yeah, witness statements. Well, the good thing about the witnesses, and I'm glad that y'all are prepared to come forward. I'm glad you see how y'all show up here. That's what we got get, because at the end of the day, this man is your friend. These people are your friends, and they had no need to lose their lives. Good thing about that is that we had the lawyer that y'all feel a little more, I don't know if more comfortable, if y'all now understand what the lawyer said to y'all in terms of what is expected in terms of the statement to give and how that is going to be treated when y'all give those statements. It's very important. I'm glad that y'all are here to show that support. But on the family side, they will and have to engage y'all in terms of what state and condition was Kian in before he lose the life. All right? So we'll come back to that. I think they think about it. Even yesterday when they said to us they're leaving it on the 20th. Today's what day? Today's the 13th. They got 7 more days in this place. I'm not questioning their investigative skills. All right? But let me see what they will get done, including continued engagement with the families and witnesses. So they came yesterday, they're here today, and it's an ongoing investigation. It's 2 investigations they're dealing with. Ronaldo and Kian. All right? So we'll check, we'll keep powering up. All right? Keep powering up.
As it relates to like the funeral part,
Sit and discuss funerals. You want to sit and discuss continued wake, even if it's 4 or 3 more days. You want to sit and discuss a vigil. All right, a candlelight vigil, sometime in this week for all 2 gentlemen, and understand where the community is going to ensure we keep supporting that. So, no problem, let them come. So the thing about this evening is very important. We are asking the Sian, how do we now take care of this side of it? Burial, cost of burial, time of burial, date of burial, funeral.
because what we were suggesting, like, let's say when you want to do a burial, we hearing from them, so we decide to just close down a little.
I hear that. I hear that. I hear that.
They're giving the statement to them or to the lawyer?
No, to them. Give the statement to them. The lawyer have already said that based on what the RSS is doing, is observing the information. He also said that when you finish with your statement, take a picture of the statement out. All right? Take a
Yeah,
picture
right.
of the statement out.
Even if we did for the panel and they come
I'm checking back this evening with y'all on the date, the vigil, and the funeral. All right? Good. So I'm going to you went over them? Yeah. All right, good. Be in catch. I'll give you a post. All right? No problem. Give my car. Give my car just before you go through. All right? Inshallah. Salam. So I was just speaking with the family of Mr. Ian Fortuné. There they are. Those are some of the witnesses that came forward too. Some of the witnesses and family members that came forward. I don't want to show too much of some of the young men who were there with both incidents of Mr. Peters. All right. So some of these, I'm very encouraged to see some of the relation to what occurred. We're taking this time to go up to the Watuka Club, not Watuka Club, Amelia's Ward, and to see where this fire story there. I can tell you some next steps of what to. As I said before, the council is more than likely going to look at our approach to how these sawmills have been conducting their business. It's not an after the fact matter. It's ensuring that the structures within the council is allowed to work properly. I know that we are the ones to issue the permits for sawmills, for example. The council is. The council is to issue permits for the sawmills. So we have to ask ourselves if many of those sawmillers are in compliance before they're given the permits for the mill. I'm trying to put on my seatbelt. Yes, most of the millers are in compliance with what is it that they should be doing. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I keep getting some calls, but nevertheless, yes, what the millers should be doing. So a lot of the millers are not acting environmental friendly. Yes, that's what we saw. Ms. Gibson, that's just what we saw. We saw a young man being executed. You can say however we want, but that's just what we saw. That's just what we saw. We saw a young man, an unarmed young man, an unarmed young men. Unarmed young men who were shot for no other reason except their youth was their weapon. That's the only reason. The youth was the weapon. So let me just say that with the issues in Linden, whether they're the shooting to death of Mr. Peters and Mr. Fortuné, we then had this industrial fire at the sawmill in Amelia's ward. And I said to some residents that we'll have to visit them because the sawmill efforts to extinguish the flames have now started to affect residents, because as they push the stuff, the materials and the sawdust down the gully, it has now started to push out smoke that has now started to get down into South Amelia's ward. So I'm going to head up to Amelia's ward now. Amelia's ward, in fact, is my constituency. Constituency 1, Bami Amelia's ward. This sawmill fire would have been a matter of concern for some time, over several days now. And it has completely exposed the capacity of the council in terms of not only dealing with these fires, but how we are looking at permits that we are giving out to sawmillers. Like I said, not only the capacity, we have seen the depositing of wood materials in that pit since in the days of Kakarali. And for those who can remember that sawmill have been around for decades. That's how long waste materials have been deposited in that pit. Over 30 years or more of materials being deposited in that. That have now been ignited, and most of that ignition is caused by methane gas. So for carbonated materials that have been buried for some time, and carbonated meaning biomaterials, whether plant, leaf or animals, that have been buried for some time, converts itself into methane gas with heavy temperature and pressure and temperature over a period turns it into gas. So when that is being ignited, it's not just the wood, it's not just the wood materials, but also the gas that is coming out from the materials that have been stored for some time now. So even to that again, it is not just about the environmental issue that erupted, but our ability to battle these type of fire that may even erupt at landfills and waste sites and dump sites. the live earlier with Dr. Todd giving us an update on where we are with the investigation of a legal perspective and the family's engagement with the RSS team and some of the witnesses that actually saw the crime that was committed or the crimes that were committed, and that they now prepare to come forward and give their evidence or statements. Yeah, you want the, well, so far the names of the officers, we have Sergeant Kendall and a Officer Primus. I know I did, I gave the wrong name a couple of days ago while I was speaking. It is Officer Primus and Officer Kendall. They've confirmed to us that Officer Kendall is still under close arrest. He's not been charged as yet. None of the officers have been charged. But they were only clear to say it is Officer Kendall who is under close arrest. They haven't said anything about Officer Primus, if he is under close arrest, if he's on active duty. We have not gotten any information on that. I'm almost there in Amelia's ward at the area with the fire. So I'm going to give some quick updates because there are few perspectives on this fire that the municipality and the RDC would have been advancing for quite some time. And I know many persons came up and they had their perspectives to put on this matter. But coming from the municipality, I just want to make sure that we have a few more understanding of what is actually transpiring. Still Tada unmuted. Can you not hear me now? Am I still muted? I'm driving, so I don't want to be focusing on the phone. Sawmill I came to the other day. So we're actually at the sawmills. I know I was at one of these sawmills yesterday and the other one the day before. We're at Wall Dyke. Just see some of what's happening here. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Sharma. I'm reaching out to you. This is concerning my son. My cousin gave me your number to call you, to reach out to you.
Okay.
Galen, concerning my son, the boy that got murdered in Kokoni.
Oh, just give me a minute. All right, so this is the aftermath. This is the aftermath of the valley of the gully that is or was engulfed with fire. They've managed to bring some type of order to it. If you notice, they threw sand continuously and they actually covered some of the wood. Now that doesn't end the matter because again there's still smoke that is emitting from the sawdust material that was used to build up this foundation. If you notice, all of this is sawdust that was just dumped there over a period to build up. There's no sand there. So while we were here a couple of days ago, I did reach out to the fire chief and he did indicate that they were going to get some support. I saw that support came by, and we want to also just encourage the support that came from the Ministry of Home Affairs, that we have to ensure that this community of Linden, as an industrial town, is given adequate machinery and equipment to ensure that we can deal with some of these industrial catastrophes that may occur, such as proper fire engine and fire tenders. So I know over the past couple of days we've been showing this raging inferno. It has now found itself to be smoking inferno. But let me just say this. You see where the wind is now? The wind was over this way a couple of days ago. The wind is now heading in the area of the vegetation. But in this area, and if you notice there's a red roof over that way, you see where the smoke is going to be for days. This will now affect an entire population of people down into the valley. And it's already causing significant respiratory issues for some very elderly person. In fact, a woman called me this morning to complain about this. So this is now becoming something we now have to look at. As we finish one catastrophe of the fire, we now have to go down into the valley and look at the residents who are complaining about the dust, the smoke, because this is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And for how long it's going to last, we don't know. And we may have to do a few things, if not put out advisory, depends on how long this lasts, may have to encourage evacuation. So all of this now, this smoke was more concentrated going in that direction. That direction, which would have been the more easternly direction, this direction. It is now heading towards a more southerly direction, or I should say southeasternly direction. And in this southeasternly direction, you have a lot of farmland and a lot of people who are farming down in the gully. But in the direct southern direction, if you notice where the finger is, you have a lot of homes and people who are living in there. So you see where the smoke is? And this smoke is going to be here for days. When we had the flames without the smoke, you probably would not have had the complaint from residents. Now that we have this smoke, so this smoke is going to be right through into this system for quite some time, even if it's a couple of hours, if not a few days. We'll have to find out how our residents are dealing with that. And you have all the way there in terms of the gully and the valley, all the way there. All the way there. So I just want to bring you this afternoon two issues that we want to update you on, which would have been the ongoing investigations into the killings of Mr. Ronaldo Peters and Mr. Keon Fudgene. We want to bring you an understanding of where they are in terms of the RSS and its investigation. and they would have been given some legal advice and counsel. This evening the family is going to be discussing arrangements in terms of funeral. They're hesitant, I'm telling you that. You know, they're going to bury the dead. The dead will have to eventually bury. But they don't want to bury the dead until they understand that they're going to see some sort of justice. I'm telling you that, right? And then we came by to see on this fire. This raging fire that has now grown to a massive smoke. And I'll try to get into the community shortly of South Amelia's ward to see how it's affecting some residents. So this is what this sawmill area looks like. This is the front going to the Amelia's ward, to the main road. This is what the sawmill looks like. The millers, as I said before, Linden, this area had 4 sawmills, 4 sawmills. And now this area alone is what, with 24 sawmills. That is how much we've had a proliferation of sawmills in Linden over the past 10 years. 10 years. We've had almost 20 sawmills in one location. You understand that rate of growth? You know why those sawmills grew so much? For a couple of reasons. Linden is the cheapest place to manufacture. Manufacture means just to get wood and cut them up into squares. It's part of manufacturing. In terms of electricity, it's the cheapest electricity in the country and the most stable. You may pay 20,000 for electricity in Linden while you pay 100,000 for electricity in Bartico or in fact Perico and Georgetown. So it's very easy to come to Linden to open a sawmill. Cheap power. You're right, Mr. Greenwich. Cheap power. Very cheap power. It's $500,000, no less than $500,000 you pay for light bill to run a sawmill in Georgetown. And you pay about $20,000 to run that sawmill in Linden. And I know because we've spoken to a couple well millers. They would always tell you that that is the actual average rate that they're paying for sawmills. So to see 20 sawmills pop up right after the 18th of July and the electricity remaining the same, sometimes we ask ourselves as Lindeners, who we really struggle for? We struggle for us and our benefits, or we struggle for other people to come in and get the benefits? I'm now going down into this community that some persons call to say the smoke. This is an Obama drive. The smoke is affecting them. And it is causing some respiratory concerns for some elderly persons. I think, you know, I always say this about the human side of our consideration. That we are concerned about the issue of the infrastructure. Come there. You good?
I gotta check you now.
When you're ready. So we've protected the sawmills, we've protected the millers, but we have not considered that these residents are going to be suffering if we don't understand how we are protecting everyone. Let me so today was very eventful in us looking to see how we can get some comfort for the families who lost their loved ones. But I think now as we get into this Amelia's Ward area to look at the fire that we recently had at the sawmill. This is the next house. So I'm in South Amelia's Ward, right? And I can tell y'all something. I can smell, you know, like when things are burning. I can show you. So this is me in the community of South Amelia's Ward. And I'm going to just show you what is going on with the fire. My eyes are already burning me, right? I'm just going to show you something. I can smell the smoke, and that's the thing. This would have started happening today. It started happening today, but I can smell the smoke, and I could only understand how choking this smoke is to some of the residents. So when you look over there, this is the gully, part of the gully that you're seeing right now. I'm just going to go up a little on this bump. And these are people's backyard. Alright, these are people's backyard. If you notice, the fence is there. Fence is there. The fence is there. There's me over on the next side of Amelia's Ward. You see, you got a couple well farming area there. There's the gully, and there is the smoke. There's the smoke coming directly over into the community. That's very concerning. All the residents over in this community have started to complain. I've been doing this through some of the local representatives that we have on this side of the constituency. And I spoke to persons like Miss Jai Qualis, for those who remember Miss Qualis from Cedar Street. You know when you burning old wood, old wet wood, you can smell that scent for days. That is the scent you're getting right now. Because indeed it's old wet wood that was burnt. Thank you everyone for joining the live. Very eventful day. I will return on the live this evening to have a more measured discussion on what is happening and what we intend to see how we can get done in terms of support and what is actually happening. It's actually happening.